The commodification of art has been relentlessly debated on for generations, with some believing it is yet another necessary evil to prosper in our modern society, whilst others contend it inhibits creativity and robs the world of untold amounts of raw, unfettered artistic expression. And this is MrBeast. This is 24-year-old YouTube content, video, entertainment, stream, revenue, business, audience retention, monetary producer, creator, MrBeast. If you don't know who MrBeast is, real quick, he's a business extraordinaire and future oligarch. MrBeast is a YouTube channel with over 100 million subscribers, famous for pulling the craziest stunts on the internet, such as recreating Squid Game, burying himself alive, giving away islands, donating millions of dollars, crashing planes, general violence, psychologically deteriorating his next victim, isolating people from their friends and family, auto-cannibalism, radical feminism, and of course perpetuating the military and prison industrial complex. Basically, he's your average YouTuber. However, MrBeast commodified his entire soul for the sake of his relentless desire to be the #1 content creator on YouTube.com. This is a terrible thing for the creative value of a product, or a really commendable business move. Honestly, it just depends on the kind of person you are. MrBeast is not. Just like me for real. However, we are both relatively tall, pasty, and seemingly deranged. The only difference is my threats are mostly empty, but he'll actually put you in a circle and you can't come out until you're finished doing his bidding. Look at him. He's just a little guy. I don't hate this man. In fact, I don't even dislike him. I actually like him a lot. However, have you ever wondered why you feel slightly empty inside after finishing a MrBeast video despite being fully engaged throughout the entire thing? Well then, keep watching. You like what I feed you. Eat your food. The algorithm is a soulless, unforgiving entity of pure chaos. Relatable. How does one man commodify his entire existence to the point of total and utter submission to the medium? I did some extensive research for this video, including watching over 11 hours of podcasts featuring Jimmy Donaldson yelling at other similarly shaped white guys about why they are inferior to him, in order to bring you what I would gently describe as a good YouTube video. I learned a lot throughout my research, namely that these clips are really fun to take out of context.
Fuck poor people.
I know this looks like a criticism. This is not a criticism. I'm merely stating a series of truths, and if these truths leads you to form an opinion in one way or another, that's on you, not me. I like this guy. Mr. Breast, please give me money. But one does not simply gain 100 million subscribers without selling at least partial real estate in the soul. So, how did we get here? Whoops. The main 3 factors in YouTube success are click-through rate, engagement, oh dear God, and above all else, average viewer duration. Let's go with that. The whiteboard was not a good idea. So click-through rate is when people say, ooh, gimme, gimme. Engagement is when you threaten the audience. And of course, average viewer duration. Average viewer duration is when you're just so retained. The recommended amount on YouTube is about 40%. Oh dear God, fuck it, whatever. The average on YouTube is about 40%. The recommended amount is about 50%, and mine of course is 60 because I'm better than you. You wish you were at my level. I look down on you from my pedestal of grandiose delusions.
70%,
Yeah.
That's what you need. If it's below that, figure out how to get higher.
Fuck. To increase click-through rate, it's very simple. Just make better thumbnails, have better ideas. Increase your engagement, no problem. Just do a bunch of threats. This is a threat, I'm threatening you. Hit that like button. But to increase retention though, that's a battle for only Susan's strongest soldiers. Not everyone is up for the task. This whole thing was such a bad idea. I spent so much money on this. Breaking down videos into A and B plots, strategizing engaging through lines, adding more disingenuous emotional moments. This is, to put it simply, fucking annoying. I don't want to be constantly stressed about having even a slightly dull moment in my video in order to maintain some kind of strategically healthy analytical point on a chart to please the ADHD brains of the masses. Yet I do, and I'm very good at it. When creativity exists on a medium that is unconcerned with the individuality of your own specific piece of work, you tend to run into a problem. And that problem is no one gives a shit about you. It's a hard fact to confront as a recovering narcissist. I'm gonna be real with you guys, and this might come as a shock, but I love attention. I love it so much. And not like MrBeast though. I'm not like MrBeast. YouTube gives creators analytics because they want you to know what you can improve upon. But what YouTube thinks is an improvement is purely a numerical uptick. There isn't a way to quantitatively value a creative piece of work because creative value is not a factor in the monetary success of a company. Shut up. It's okay, babe. Just stay right there. I'll do the talking. Which brings me to MrBeast. MrBeast is absolutely obsessed with the algorithm. And of course he is. Why wouldn't he be? He has hundreds of employees and he's bringing in millions of dollars a month from businesses and channels, all inextricably tied to the performance of his next YouTube video. If he wasn't algorithmically optimized, this couldn't be here. When he breaks it down in real time, his audience retention strategies are genuinely scary.
It's very hard with a single storyline, if you're doing like a double-digit minute video, to just have that one thing grip their entire attention throughout the whole video and pay off at the end. So typically, if you're doing a longer video, you should introduce like a side story and like you should have some plan halfway through, like to re-engage them so they don't just get bored.
He's constantly trying to one-up himself on one of the most grandiose scales a content production company has ever seen.
If Squid Game is the bar, like what's the next video gonna be? Right, which is kind of hard in his position, because you have to continually one-up yourself. This is what becomes dangerous about YouTube, is when you're in the game that Jimmy's in, each video has to be better than the next.
Which is why this number matters so much. Without the excess impressions he may receive as a reward for winning the YouTube game, he may not make enough money to continue operating at said scale. But what does that mean for content? If every video is algorithmically optimized and the algorithm is optimized for the consumer, isn't he actually consumer oriented? In a sense, yes. If your personal judgment of entertainment is the ability at which it captivates an audience member's attention, which it very well might be, and that's valid. However, if you don't wish to play by these rules, you'll never attract that kind of audience. If you do not wish to sell your soul to the optimized hell of recommendation strategy, you'll receive limited resources. MrBeast has bent to the medium of YouTube. He is their golden boy. He follows all the rules and thus is rewarded by the platform. When I say MrBeast sold his soul, I obviously don't mean he made some kind of blood pact. Unless he did, in which case, Jimmy, hit me up. I want to take the oath. When I say he sold his soul, I mean the person in the video. And I'm not talking about the idea of being a real person online. Obviously, every YouTuber is disingenuous to some end. But when you start chasing number go up at that scale, you have to cut anything that's even in the slightest bit controversial. You can broaden your appeal to the widest possible audience, but that requires relinquishing some of that creative and personal control. Whether that's as simple as making your jokes more palatable or dumbing them down even, or in the extreme cases, cutting them all together. Removing that personality aspect from your videos. When I watch a MrBeast video, Jimmy isn't there anymore, because in order to reduce all possible friction to any audience member, he's had to dumb himself down to the most basic of rudimentary emotion. His job in most videos is either average contestant or games master. That's it. The last time he tried showing genuine human emotion, it got like 50 million views, and obviously that's just a poorly miscalculated flop. Never do that again. By the way, if you get bored during this video, feel free to just kind of zone out and watch how my veins flick whenever I talk. I've heard you people like this. You're gross. Just keep watching. I'm begging you. My entire livelihood depends on this. No pressure. MrBeast's creativity exists purely on the spectrum to which a robot says it's allowed to. When creating content on youtube.gov, creators have a fine line to toe between creative expression and algorithmic optimization. If you believe in the truest form of pure art, you don't have to look at these analytics, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. However, if your sole goal is to be the best in the world at this specific platform, then your creativity is inherently stifled for the sake of profit. The commodification of the soul. Guys, that's a title. That's a title. I figured this shit out. YouTube as a medium is very fascinating due to how vast the platform is, thus creating dirty little hybrids like me, the ones who value creative expression, but also need to make a living. On patreon.com/miacole. Incidentally, this video itself was suggested by patrons, so remember, if you don't like it, blame these people, not me. But if you do end up liking it, please remember that I wrote and directed it all by myself. These fuckers had nothing to do with it. Link down below. Anyway, I think that was the worst call to action I've ever done. YouTubers nowadays, thanks to this increasing amount of optimization, are constantly worried about these little numbers, because at a certain level, you can't afford for your audience to be bored. Yet for some, you also can't live with yourself if you're not being true and authentic to at least some degree. We've gotten to a point now where all creators genuinely have to ask themselves, how willing am I to stifle my own creativity, and how rich do I want to be in 5 years? Me personally, the answer is yes. Gimme. MrBeast is the archetype for this model. He pledged allegiance to the algorithm and thus was rewarded in return. Because in his mind, the hallmark of a good YouTube video is chasing after this golden ratio of analytics. But again, I have to ask, does this constitute the best YouTube video? Or are you just the lowest possible common denominator? How can you convey true creative expression on a medium when that medium doesn't care about you? YouTube is the biggest video sharing website on the internet. Everyone tries to copy her, but I mean, you can't imitate the queen. YouTube is what we in the academic field refer to as mommy. Okay, so MrBeast, everyone's favorite emotionally distant stepdad. As I alluded to earlier, MrBeast's ultimate goal is not to be the world's biggest entertainer. He doesn't have ambitions for the Forbes 30 under 30 list. He just wants to be the world's biggest YouTuber. And while I have no doubt that those two concepts are inextricably linked in his mind, it still feels kind of gross. Why do I feel homophobic when I tell Jimmy he needs more ambition? The way he talks about YouTube is that of childlike wonder. I still feel the 14-year-old in his voice who is desperately trying to make it big on YouTube, pulling all-nighters and talking to his friends about it nonstop. Which is totally not relatable. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I can't do this. I was like, I have to make videos. Like, this makes me sad. This makes me happy. And she's like, this doesn't make money. This will make money. And I'm like, but this makes me happy.
He speaks as though he's unaware that he has the clout to entertain other options. Guys, I'm pretty sure Jimmy Beast is suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Jimmy, snap out of it. She's gonna eat you. His personality is being a living, breathing spokesperson for YouTube. My personality is being funny on Twitter. We're not the same. We're not the same. Look, I have to say, I commend him for not having commitment issues, but his brand loyalty is insane.
Why do you want to be the best YouTuber?
I don't fucking know, man. I just, ever since I was 13, I just made the decision I was going to be a YouTuber. I was going to die trying. Sounds different hearing me say it now, but I had that type of like devotion when I was younger. Imagine spending 10 years of your life only thinking about one thing every waking hour of the day. You know, people are like, okay, well, what are you going to do after high school? And I'm like, I'm going to be a YouTuber. And they'd be like, how? And I'd be like, I don't know, but I want to make it happen.
However, because of his attachment to Mother, it sounds like he has some subtle YouTube brain poisoning, which is totally understandable. Numerical validation is one hell of a drug. But when you base your life around the analytical value of your work, you tend to rewire your malleable little human brain into thinking that life has purpose. Nothing matters, Donaldson. More views does not equal better video. MrBeast has a tendency to go on these podcasts, and whilst he's relentlessly degrading the host over the course of 90 minutes, he sneaks a few YouTube pills into his rhetoric.
But I've been doing it for 10 years now.
Yeah.
I'm not losing faith now. Like, I think YouTube's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. It comes installed on every Android device, which is like 85% of all operating systems, and 90% of searches in the West are on Google, which YouTube pops up on.
He always states his goal as two separate things, though I believe he actually means them as one and the same. He wants to both make the best videos whilst also being the biggest creator. And the fatal flaw here is that those two things do not always coincide. When it comes to measuring the value of a work, it's important to remember everything is subjective and nobody is on an even playing field. More views does not equal better video. Like I was saying earlier, in order to raise your views on this wretched platform, you have to deform your content down to the level of Jimmy Breast. You have to essentially become the lowest possible common denominator. But just because you have the broadest possible appeal doesn't mean you're the best. I'll give you a good example of this. Essentially, MrBeast is... I don't even have a yellow. Why am I doing this? The McDonald's of YouTubers. I didn't have a yellow. This is so stupid. This is all so bad. I'm really doing my best here, guys. It's easy, it's quick, and it's relatively reliable. Yet the second I eat it, I inexplicably feel empty inside. It's slipping. It's slipping. Stay with me. Why do I feel empty inside? When I finish a Jimmy Beast video, I consciously know I've been entertained. All the necessary things have happened to make my brain say, good job, good, yes. I've been fed my content for the day, and I'm happy with my purchase, but there's something missing. I did not gain anything from it. I was intrigued by an outlandish idea. I marveled at spectacle. And then I left. Screw this, man. I give up. And that's fine. That's just entertainment. That's just how it be sometimes. But if you ask someone's favorite restaurant, they almost never say McDonald's. Even though so many people consume it, it's not considered the best. It has that level of popularity because it's palatable to so many people. More views does not equal better video. I mean, if you truly think about it, what was the best YouTube video you've ever seen? Maybe it was one of grandiose spectacle, sure, but maybe it was just one that made you laugh. Maybe it made you learn something new. But none of those are MrBeast. I'll tell you, for me, I think about vulnerability. I think about experience. I don't think about spectacle. Videos like The Hunger by ContraPoints or Mental Health by PhilosophyTube. Videos that actually genuinely changed my life and inadvertently how I look at content creation. However, everyone's opinion is gonna be different, and that's okay. Your favorite video could very well be, I didn't eat food for 30 days. I'd have some questions, but it could be. But the problem with infinite scalability is that when you perpetually dilute your content and you finally hit that point of immense success, you start saying things like this.
How much of YouTube you think is luck versus skill?
It's 99% skill.
If you have 100 subscribers, you have 5 subscribers. If you upload a good enough video, it will get views. Like,
if you knew what you're doing, you could do that 100%.
Jimmy, come on. Friendly reminder that shut up. plus ratio. You'd think out of all the people to perpetuate things like this, it wouldn't be MrBeast of all people. Someone who knows what it's like to work so hard for so long and still not get noticed by anyone. What he's perpetuating in this clip is the idea that YouTube is a meritocracy. And please, remember what I said at the start of this video. This is not a criticism. But this part is. I'm gonna do this without using any personal experience because I know I get the optics of the situation. I'm not gonna be the channel with 20-something thousand subscribers complaining about meritocracy on YouTube. I get the optics. I am aware of the irony and I accept my beta status. Or honestly, let's be honest, omega status. I have sinned. YouTube is not a meritocracy. People like MrBeast are in a position to say things like this because they've made it. However, there is undeniably an element of luck to YouTube clout. When larger creators like MrBeast perpetuate this myth, it comes off as just arrogant. As if your true view of YouTube is that no matter what, the better the content, the higher the view count. You're essentially just inflating your ego. There's a whole genre of YouTube now where popular creators attempt to create new channels to see if it really is just luck. But do you really believe that, Jimmy? You really believe, no matter what, that the higher the view count, the better the video? Is that what you believe? And if it really is, if that's really what you believe, then I have to ask you this. Why is Cocomelon above you, Jimmy? Is Baby Shark, Submarine, More Nursery Rhymes, and Kid Songs Cocomelon better than every video you've ever made? Is that truly what you believe? This is all 100% a symptom of survivor bias. Survivor bias is defined as focusing solely on those who passed through a certain selection process whilst ignoring those who did not due to your inability to see them, which naturally leads us to draw certain conclusions about why some people seem to succeed and others not so much. It's normally a racism thing, which is why people like MrBeast who made it out of small channel purgatory tend to have these beliefs. You're able to uphold that system because you're in the most visible group of creators. However, for every MrBeast out there, there are hundreds of creators, maybe even thousands, who have been working so hard and are so desperate to succeed, yet we will never see them because they just weren't given a chance. YouTube is a massive platform, so it's not a hard assumption to make that there are people out there who could have had tens of millions of subscribers if they were just given a chance, and yet we'll never see them. Making good videos is a skill that you can hone no matter what channel size you are, but that scalability can only be done once you're discovered. Isn't that right, Jimmy? It takes a lot of resources to be able to create content on this platform. So when you say things like just make better videos, you're asking people with less resources to somehow do more with what they have than you did at that time and somehow still have the same level of knowledge. And yes, while I don't believe there's anybody out there with the same level of dedication that Jimmy has, I do believe there are people who are just as talented. People who, once again, we'll never hear from because they'll be lost to the void of time. Okay, I might have made it a little bit personal. I think the streamer Ludwig, who actually knows MrBeast and subsequently has swallowed a series of Jimmy pills, actually has a really good stance on the matter.
Although my mentality is do whatever you want because it'll always work out because it has to. Yeah. Part of that might be rooted in confirmation bias because it has worked out. I am able to say it from a point of privilege, which I feel like is worth noting.
Yeah.
Go off, Caden. Slay. Good job. Yay. YouTube may have been a meritocracy in the past, but it outgrew that title long ago. It's simply too big. But in light of that, I think massive creators should refrain from this line of thinking because it's genuinely damaging. And once again, it's purely survivor bias. It only seeks to harm the people who will never achieve the success of others purely because of a series of random arbitrary events led by a robot. God, that was based. That was so based. Wasn't that so based? I'm just so based. I'm just so. Hey, speaking of criticism, while I still got the red lights on, I might as well throw in one more. Jimmy has a tendency to go on these podcasts and again, take a break from unabashedly degrading the host to say, hey, YouTubers actually make a shit ton of money. And it's like, bro.
Your favorite YouTubers are making more money than you think. Those $10 million mansions don't come from nowhere.
First of all, your back catalog is way more valuable than like any other creator on this platform. You have 100 million subscribers, and YouTube has said themselves you're in the YouTube Select program. Formerly known as Google Preferred, it basically just gives like the top tier creators access to exclusive ads. And he basically confirmed this when Logan Paul, of all people, asked him how much money he made, to which he guessed a $2.50 RPM, and Jimmy said, Well, and this whole situation made 10 times funnier by the irony that Logan Paul himself was famously kicked out of Google Preferred after a famous incident in 2018. That's undeniably funny. MrBeast had a meteoric rise to fame after a series of multiple successful videos in which he pushed his body to the absolute limit, all for the sake of content. Also making fun of children, let's not forget that. Which I'm not knocking, by the way. Put those kids in their place, that was real as hell. But even Jimmy admits the methods in which he used to rise to stardom back then wouldn't have worked today because YouTube is constantly growing and evolving. Why are you looking at me like that? Don't look at me like that. Dude, I promise this video isn't just me being salty because he made fun of me on his channel a few years ago. I know that's what this looks like, but I promise it's not. Besides, Jimmy, why would I be mad? Why would I be mad when that video in which he made fun of me is actually one of the #1 contributions to his WikiFeet page? You're welcome, internet. Karma's a bitch. MrBeast destroyed content creation as we know it. Are you familiar with the term clout chasing? I want to make it clear, this is not MrBeast's fault. Any successful product will inevitably have a less cool spin-off. MrBeast is simply playing the game like any of us dirty little no-good content rats. Patreon plug. However, when you essentially win the game, people are inevitably going to copy your formula as it's a proven working method. This is not a bad thing necessarily. I mean, people can have similar content styles whilst also being their same person with their own unique takes and perspectives. Let me say that again. People can have similar content styles. Sorry, that was personal. Anyway, MrBeast is not necessarily responsible for the actions these people take. And again, that's not to say they're all bad either. Some of them are, but not all of them. When you set the meta for content creation and you have the ability to infinitely scale up over and over again as if you've discovered some sort of infinite money glitch, that always tends to leave certain groups of people behind. Poor people. The barrier to entry on YouTube will, and indeed has, exploded exponentially. And it's hard for small channels without adequate access to funds to be able to scale up their content at the same rate. I mean, MrBeast's manager even said it himself.
It's just gonna be really hard for someone to catch up to where he's currently at because he's spending so much money and the ideas have gotten so crazy and his team's gotten so big. Like, it's a massive infrastructure.
And you don't have to be in the challenge niche to feel the effects of this. Let's be honest, nowadays people are used to low budget short form and high budget long form. We live in a world where attention spans are the most valuable commodity, thus resulting in lower and lower engagement, and you expect people to watch a 20-minute video that was shot on an iPhone? I would never. This increased barrier to entry has far-reaching consequences for everyone on the platform, as it becomes cheaper and easier to create short-form content rather than putting the heart and soul into long-form conversations. Or, you know, the fucking Let's Play. And I will say, short form is incredibly enticing. Comment below if I should start a TikTok or something. Honestly, I'd rather die, but you know, anything for the algorithm. I want those yummy little numbers so bad. Okay, so the infinite scaling of content production is inevitably going to price out people without the necessary means to compete in the space. But most of you are Americans, and if I know Americans, I know you guys don't care about the disimpoverished, so instead, let's talk about the influence of content. MrBeast has become his own content format. The method of talking, the style of title, the money, the power, the influence, that face, that deep, unsettling face. He stares back into my soul. MrBeast himself is an ecosystem. Between all of his different channels, his copycats, and even videos like this discussing him, he is the all-encompassing being. I've heard some people refer to this as the MrBeastification of YouTube, and I definitely agree with that sentiment, especially as this phenomena becomes more and more prevalent. A lot of people claim to be noticing that YouTube as a platform is recently becoming dry, and I can't help but wonder if this new content meta has anything to do with that. It's just pure oversaturation. I mean, seriously, look at the thumbnails. Oh my god. I look at this and it's gross. I don't like it. Stop doing that. Videos are now taking longer and longer to produce, requiring more time and effort. And if the top 10% of creators are all in a similar genre, then original ideas become a hot commodity that must be used, lest you spend 2 months on a YouTube video only to have a competitor release theirs just a few days before yours, and then you're like, oh, well, shit, everybody's gonna think I copied them, but I know I didn't, but everybody's gonna think I did because I don't have enough clout to claim that I didn't, and then it's gonna be a whole thing. Sorry, this video is bringing something out of me. Anyway, hit that subscribe button. I'm sensing an underlying growing disdain for this niche of content of extravagant philanthropy capitalism. People are clearly getting tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. Yet our dumb little brains continue to marvel at spectacle because motherfucker put a man in a circle for 100 days without his family. That's insane. What's he gonna do next? Like, let's not even get into the sadistic tendencies of this content niche. It's weird. Whole lot of psychoanalysis to be done there. Why are you doing this? Stop doing this to yourself. But Mia, I hear you begging and pleading. What's wrong with giving away more money than most people will see in the next 5 to 10 years? That's so cool. Also, did you see the Squid Game video? It's a pretty sick video. Yes, I saw the Squid Game video. It would have been cooler if he actually killed the contestants after they got out, but that's neither here nor there. Look, there's nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned manic pixie millionaire boy, but perhaps this sudden and constant dilution of content to the lowest common denominator is perhaps the culprit as to why people are starting to get tired of this content format. Maybe that's the empty feeling. It's because you're all the same. It's because we're all the same. Oh god, the whole system of creation is collapsing in favor of monetary values. Fuck! Okay, so you've heard me talk about infinite scalability throughout this video. Well, now is probably as good of a time as any to explain the MrBeast business model. How did we get here? The way this content scalability works, or as I call it, cheat codes in capitalism, essentially boils down to one thing. The more money you have, the more money you make. The MrBeast YouTube channel starts as the main source of revenue from both AdSense and brand deals. With any excess capital, Jimmy spends almost all of it on the next video and future production costs, which allows constant reinvestment. But when that became not enough, he started making business moves. He started Beast Burger, which although most of the proceeds ends up getting dumped back into the restaurant who were contracted to operate the virtual kitchen, this is still a good source of revenue. He's like an ethical drug mule. Go off, Kane. Slay. Yes, I indeed bought a Beast Burger. The way I describe it is it probably tasted really good. It tasted like it definitely would have been a Boehner burger if it didn't show up to my house 70 minutes late. And then there's Feastables, which MrBeast has self-reported is doing 6 figures a day in Walmart after initial launch. And these revenue streams just get broader and broader. As the more money he makes, the more he has to put into the next video, which makes it bigger, which brings in more money, which allows him to reinvest into other business ventures, which brings more money for the next video. And it's like, well, I guess it's a pretty normal practice, but applying it to content creation is next level. Local woman discovers capitalism, appears deeply confused. This is why MrBeast is not just like me for real. He's not.
You go from making money, spending money, to making money, losing money.
Yeah, on some videos.
On some
and then
videos,
other videos
right?
have to make money to make up for it, yeah.
So I guess I was going to ask you, like, when did you get that comfort level of saying, I'll actually spend... I'm okay with
the
like,
entire
just
time.
The entire
literally,
time.
ever since I was 13.
Could you imagine if Jimmy Beast got canceled? Honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. Let's be for real. So many people hate this guy, whether it's out of jealousy or it's some kind of reasonable critique of philanthropy capitalism. Either way, it just makes it all the more likely that Twitter would be furious. So with all of this infinite scaling up and excess business ventures, you'd think the guy would get tired or would even perhaps take a break. But no. The man just keeps going. He keeps on creating. He's like a perpetual motion machine, just constantly generating ideas and working obsessively. But at what point does that become detrimental? And just how far is Jimmy willing to go? Also, how much Adderall does that man take? Oh my god. Jimmy Beast is Ronald Reagan? Mr. Breast did the war on drugs? That's crazy. I'm so fucking tired. Let's talk about obsession. Let's talk about addiction. Let's have a normal feel-good Mia Cole YouTube video. Average Mia enjoyers scare me as people. Fun fact I learned from my copious amounts of research is Mr. Beast really hates Five Guys.
Five Guys. Like, if Five Guys didn't exist, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go start a company named Five Guys. Like, Five Guys. Fucking Five Guys. If this can be successful, fucking Five Guys.
It's so good.
Who cares? It's called Five Guys. What kind of fucking name is that?
As a YouTuber, relegated to your own toxic habits, natural unhealthy ideas of work-life balance, and of course the intrusive thoughts that come along with said internet clout, it can be hard to differentiate between hard work and overworking, as well as laziness and healthy breaks. Not speaking from personal experience though, I am so good. I'm so good. It's a fine line to toe as a creative, and in order to see the maximal growth and minimal ungrowth. If you want to get ahead in a game where you're competing against millions of people for a shot at the top, then you have to optimize. The level of dedication this man has to his career is absolutely insane. No, really, it's actually insane. Jimmy, are you good? In a video by content creator Mr. Who's the Boss, Jimmy opulently struts around a $10 million studio full of hundreds of thousands of parts that make up an entire modern production studio in which teams are working hard around the clock to maintain the various brands and products of America's favorite venture capitalists. I love this video. It's literally just 20 minutes of the host walking around pointing at shit and saying, how much money? How much money is that? To which Mr. Beast says, a lot. And then the other guy goes like, whoa, that's crazy. That's a lot of money. I'm starting to think this guy has a lot of money. And instantly my class warfare brain starts going off. Ooh, when the end times come, you're in for it, Jimmy. But then you remember that he runs food drives almost every week and actually does a lot to help out his community, probably more than the government does. So okay, fine, he's safe, but watch your back. And speaking of charity, this is not a good transition. Check out the Vehicle Patreon on Patreon. Patreon.com/Vehicle is so good, you won't believe it. Ooh, it's so yummy, yummy, ooh, yes. Or, you know, feel free to hit that like button, leave a comment telling me just how fucking engaged you are. Okay, so this video takes a very uncanny turn about halfway through. The craziest part of this walkthrough is when we just casually strut into his bedroom. Jimmy reveals that within his $10 million studio, which again, I cannot stress this enough, is for YouTube videos, he reveals that he lives in a studio apartment within his office. And that's when you go, whoa. This guy's really serious about this YouTube thing. This man is truly obsessed. That is truly a level of dedication that is absolutely unrivaled by anybody else on the platform. MrBeast has gone above and beyond for hustle culture. He literally lives and breathes YouTube. And that's kind of based. There's this common viewpoint, especially held by elder millennials. Sorry, that was... wellness is a very important topic to specific groups of people. Over the last few years, many people have taken steps to realize that work is not everything. And you'll hear the increasingly popular sentiment, don't do too much. Know your limits. Stop stressing out so much. Just be normal. And from the sidelines, this is a very easy thing to cheer on. Yes, be nice to yourself. Take breaks. You should be allowed to be a person. But not me, though. When my friends tell me to take a break or be nicer to myself, I physically reach into my phone and I strangle them. If you ever tell me to be kinder to myself, I will make sure you don't walk out of the conversation the same. That is the antithesis to everything I am. Because that's just what my hedonistic little brain wants to hear. No, I must work more. And that's why, and this is gonna be a hot take, I envy him. Listen, don't say a goddamn word. This is admirable. He lives and breathes his work. His entire existence is fully confined around his identity as a YouTuber. I know this goes against everything I've said so far, but you gotta remember, I am also YouTube pilled as well. I've been on this wretched site for 8+ years now. Jesus Christ. So yes, I envy his lifestyle. MrBeast's personhood may be in question, but he's got racks on racks. As much as I know it's not a healthy thing, I fully respect the dedication of the craft. Not the medium, but the craft is admirable. Guys, I can't stress this enough. He sleeps in the studio. Oh my God, YouTube is his hyperfixation. I can't. However, when you have that dedication and obsession over YouTube, it's not a hard assumption to make that may or may not slip into other areas of your life. Behold, degenerate gambler MrBeast. What started out as a side plot within my research turned out to be incredibly significant, and I'll tell you why. Jimmy Beast is a degenerate, just like the rest of us, except, like, with money. I mean, this makes sense if you think about it. Even Jimmy acknowledges this isn't exactly surprising. The guy who gives away millions of dollars likes to throw around money. Shocker.
But I don't have anyone to play with.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
You want to play after this?
I don't have your money.
Well, we can play 10 G's if you want. Or 1 G.
He apparently played poker with Ted Cruz and lost in like the first round, and that's absolutely iconic. You can't forget that. MrBeast is single-handedly stealing copious amounts of wealth out of big YouTubers' hands. Socialist icon. I can't tell if this man is what the creator economy evolves around or if he's their reaper. Either way, go off. You know, maybe this whole addiction to content creation thing isn't so bad after all. MrBeast's obsession with money, power, status. It's funny, actually. That's the new thesis. Jimmy says in interviews he knows the value of his time. He actively calculates a cost-benefit analysis of his time in his head and uses it to better his life.
The thing is, like, I'm at the point now where I could make 6 figures in an hour if I really wanted to. Like, I could do a TikTok brand deal, or I could do this or that.
But when you're constantly obsessing over one thing all the time, your entire life, what else is there? I mean, this addiction to the attention economy is profitable, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, what is it all for? It's a question I've been trying to ask myself now for the past year. What is the true purpose? Yes, go make lots of money. Give it away to anyone and everyone. That's so admirable. But at some point, I'm sure you gotta ask yourself, What's the through line? What is the real reason? Is it truly making the world a better place? Or is it just making the best YouTube video? And thus is the dichotomy of MrBeast. I have a feeling that soon there will come a time where Jimmy actually has to face the true reasoning behind his content creation. Are you trying to make the world a better place? Or do you just want a viral video? There's no doubt in my mind that he'd say both. But sooner rather than later, those paths will diverge. Obsessing over a cold, unloving medium run by robots is a dangerous game. You're tangling with an autocrat that will kick you to the curb the second you don't serve its purpose. Perhaps it's not an enviable position, but perhaps it's a better position than the rest of us. Guys, I'ma be honest. MrBeast is kind of just like me for real. He's just like me for real, goddammit. I've been so afraid to admit it, but I accept it now. I am at heart an entertainer, and I identify with the motives, and I think a lot of other YouTubers can too, whether they like it or not. I empathize with Jimmy because I feel that dedication. I feel that drive. YouTube consumes my every waking moment, even when I'm not actively working on it. I'm either thinking or planning or brainstorming. It's literally everything to me. Yet I still feel that friction that content creation produces. But that's a story for another day. I think I tend to gravitate so much towards MrBeast because his thinking is so content oriented. It literally validates my very existence. It's the art versus YouTube continuum, and Jimmy is pulling me in that direction. My artist side is just barely hanging on by the tip of my LEDs. He used to be the weird kid in high school that only talked about YouTube, and I'd be lying if I said I haven't felt that too. It's been 8 goddamn years of this thing, and I'm still just getting started. Obsession. Thus, I listen to these interviews for inspiration. I embrace the hustle culture, and I accept every loss that comes with that. And while I know it's not a great look on this channel to continually make videos about why certain white guys are really cool and I respect them, this is a very unfortunate pattern. What I'm trying to say is, MrBeast is good actually. Well, for the most part. I still have my criticisms, but... So, yeah. Jimmy is an all-encompassing being, hell-bent on dominating every field he enters into and out-innovates and subsequently crushes anyone who gets in his way. Relatable. I want to commodify my soul too. Where do I sign the paper, Jimmy? Where's the goddamn paper, Jimmy? Where's the goddamn paper, Jimmy? Where is it?